Also this afternoon.
Thank you, gentlemen of the press. Welcome to this press briefing that is aimed at making a very passionate appeal to the organized labor. This is a heartfelt and deeply considered appeal to the labor unions to continue along the path of negotiations with the federal, state governments and the organized private sector under the auspices of the tripartite committee that has been established by government to fashion out a new realistic minimum wage for the people of Nigeria. As government, we are desirous of a very peaceful outcome, and we will do everything to make this happen. Yesterday, the leadership of the National Assembly met with the unions. Today, we have offered yet another invitation to the unions to meet with us and continue our discussions. We will continue to engage and continue to make ourselves available in the context of these negotiations on behalf of the Nigerian people. Let me make it clear that we are not opponents on this negotiating table. We are united by the fact that we want the best for the Federal Republic of Nigeria and all the over 200 million citizens of this country. We have a responsibility to strike a measured and realistic balance in this effort to arrive at a new minimum wage for Nigeria. Let us remind ourselves, however, of these very fundamental facts. The minimum wage is not only for the public sector workers. It will be binding on the private sector as well. This reality must be factored into all negotiations we enter into. As we have explained earlier, Labour's current proposal of 494,000 naira is an increase of 1,547% on the existing wage and translates into an annual wage bill of 9.5 trillion naira for the federal government of Nigeria alone. This, of course, does not include the subnationals and the organized private sector. This is apart from its cost implication to other sectors as well, as I've mentioned earlier. The federal government, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has put in place several measures that we have outlined severally. The new ones being the National Consumer Credit Scheme and the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. These are additional significant demonstrations of determination to bring relief to the people of Nigeria. We want the labor unions to understand that the relief that Nigerians are expecting and that they fully deserve will not only come in the form of increased wages. It will also come as efforts to reduce the cost of living and to ensure that more money stays in the pockets of Nigerians. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is firmly committed in doing what is right, reasonable, and sustainable regarding these minimum wage negotiations. We therefore make this passionate appeal once again to the labor unions to reciprocate this gesture in the interest of this nation. Thank you for listening. Thank you, gentlemen of the press. Welcome to
Nuisance Lele. Nuisance Lele.
Gentlemen of the press. So, in a nutshell, they are not shifting. Take the 60,000 or resign and leave the government work. I don't know if you have started seeing the campaign. If you can't take the 60,000 Tinubu is offering, then maybe government work is not for you, then resign. Meanwhile, there is already a plan anyway to sack many of you. If you are a Nigerian worker for working for the federal government of Nigeria, look at me very well. The action is already ongoing. They will sack many of you soon. Okay? And Now that's 60,000. I will still want to have to settle for. Now they might say, okay, let us make it 70,000. And then we are going to give you this, we are going to give you that, blah, 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 nonsense and all that. Now I just tell all of you now, the situation done red. Nigeria is broke. You see these criminals, they are there to grab whatever they can before Nigeria finally officially collapse. Don't get deceived by all of their grandstanding. No. Don't. The only thing here is that some of you are asking for military to come and take over. You need to know something. For the military to come and take over, they will need the civilians to sponsor them. And not just that. They will also need assurance from their supposed international sponsor like America and the rest. All this you won't see. Now, I don't know what is in the corner or waiting in the corner for Nigeria. But all I know is that it's not something good. So I hope if the Ajero and his guys reject what Akume is going to offer them this evening, maybe they will ask the military to arrest them. Now, since it has become the culture now and tradition to use the military, the police, to intimidate your opposition, your opponents, run them out of town, or even accuse them of trump-up charges. Well, the military are learning the rope. And if you hear any announcement tomorrow of the military takeover of Nigeria in a palace school where no single shot will be fired, don't act surprised, you. The whole recipe for disaster, the recipe of intimidating everybody, bullying them and blackmailing them, and telling them and calling everybody enemies of Nigeria. Everyone who cannot endure all your propaganda, manipulation, and all that, you label them enemy of Nigeria. Then you bring in the soldiers to start killing them, harassing them. Well. Do not act surprised when the entire house comes crashing. I will report it. Inshallah, I will be here when that happens. As for Ajero, whatever they like, they can say. Whatever excuse they want, they can give. They are no longer going to be fooled. To him, it is only when it comes to the workers that Nigeria will be bankrupt. But it is convenient for a single person to go home with over 30 million naira just for being a rep member. Listen, that was the old price, by the way. In Nigeria, where Nigeria cannot really afford to pay our workers, take a look at this. In 1999, the National Assembly budget of Nigeria was 2.2 billion naira. In year 2000, it was 29.5 billion. In 2011, it was 111 billion a year. By 2018, it has jumped to 139 billion. In 2019, the National Assembly of Nigeria spent 128 billion. By 2020-21, it was 134 billion. In 2022, they spent 139 billion. In 2023, which was last year, the Nigeria National Assembly spent 228 billion. And in 2024, they are already spending, which they intend to spend, 345 billion naira. This is the official budget, though. This is not part of the padded budget, where 7 trillion naira of fake projects were also inserted in that same 2024 budget. The money that is going into private pocket of few people. For example, Akpabiole is going to use 10 billion naira to buy 100 refrigerators for the people of his own constituency. He is also going to use 187 billion naira to construct street lights, street light, 100 street light pole. When we calculated that, it was going to be at the sum, each pole, each street light is going to cost Nigerian taxpayers over 270 million naira per one. Now, this is what you call the padded budget. They put that in the budget. They're going to draw money for it. Okay? But despite all that, they officially have 344 billion. Each senator in Nigeria, without involving himself in any contract, in any shady thing, officially, he will go home with over 55 million naira every month. And what does that mean? It simply means that a senator, without stealing, without anything, is officially allowed to go home every year with over 650 million naira. Not doing any other thing, just collect what that is allocated to you alone. Don't participate in the fraud or dealings of, you will still go home under this Tifnumbu. You will go home with over 650 million naira as a senator. And as a House of Representative member, you will go home with over 420 million naira in a year. That is the annual salary of each rep. Annual, and if Tifnumbu increased that, in the midst of Nigeria is broke, guess what they spend their money on? The Nigerian senators claim that this is why they have to get paid this amount of money. This is old salary now. This salary you have on your screen is the one before Tifnumbu, okay? But just take a look at what they are collecting the money for. Their basic salary before Tifnumbu was 2.48 million naira, basic salary of a senator. Now, the senator will now collect 50% of that as hardship allowance, 1.24 million naira. He will collect constituency allowance, 200% of his basic salary. That's like 5 million naira. He will collect furniture allowance. Pay attention to the constituency allowance. So it is for them to go and do projects in their community or constituency, all right? But yet, they still go back to now write projects. You understand that now? In their salary of 55 million now, it is from that salary they were supposed to go and do projects in their constituency and senatorial districts. But no. They have carved out a different means of getting access or dipping their hands in the Nigerian Commonwealth. So they now call something constituency projects, which they now say each senator, each rep can now bring and add to the budget. That is where you have the 7 trillion of fake projects that is going to go into the pocket of so many of them from their different various committees. You get that now? Meanwhile, the constituency projects in Nigeria is part of the salary they are paying them. Now, let's continue. Take a look at this. They will collect furniture allowance, 300% of their basic salary. That's like 8 million naira. They will collect wardrobe allowance. They will collect recess allowance, accommodation allowance, utilities, wardrobe 20%, recess allowance 20%, accommodation 30%, utility 30%, entertainment 30%, personal assistant 25%, vehicle maintenance 75%, leave allowance 10%, severance gratuity 100%, motor vehicle allowance 400%. Now take a look at this. If your basic salary, listen, if your basic salary is 2.5 million as a senator, okay, and your basic, the law says they should pay you 400% of your basic salary for a car. What is 100% of 2.5 million? Another 2.5 million. So that makes it 5 million. Another 100% makes it 7.5 million. Another 100% makes it 10 million. Now, a senator is expected to be paid 10 million naira to go and buy a car. But guess what? Every month, a senator takes home over 50 million, which means every month, a senator is paid 10 million naira for car allowance every month for 4 years. Not just that. Then they will now write a budget where They say they spent 58 billion naira buying cars for themselves. They did not buy 10 million naira car. They bought 160 million naira car each. And this is not drawn from their salaries. It was actually money given to them by Tifnumbu when he gave them 250 billion naira from the supposed money they borrowed after they said subsidy was gone. Remember that when he said subsidy was gone, they went on to go and borrow 1.2 trillion naira. From that money, they were supposed to give you 80,000 naira, the poorest Nigerians, to cushion the effects of the subsidy removal. Then people complained about the 8,000. So they said, okay, we are working on it. They said they had 800 billion naira that they were going to share to the poorest Nigerians affected by the subsidy removal. But before they even gave a dime to anybody, Tifnumbu gave 240 billion naira to the National Assembly. At the same time, the same Tifnumbu gave over 40 billion naira to the judges, the Judicial Commission, just to appreciate them for what they did for him. Okay? And at the end of the day as well, they came back and they told us that they have given 25,000 naira to the poorest Nigerians and 11 million families have collected the money. Audio. So all of this are more or less the reason why Ajaero and his team do not believe that Nigeria cannot afford the 494,000 naira minimum wage. Hear him.
Why are we scared when we say pay a worker 1 million? When those in National Assembly are collecting 16, 17, 30 million. So why are we so discriminated if you hear 1 million for a worker? So if somebody can collect 15, 16 million for a job, not even commensurate to the job that the worker is doing, why can't a worker get 1 million? In a situation whereby you need a bag full of naira to get a handful of goods. So let nobody be scared about that. Unless it is cheap, the demand will have no end. And the minimum wage, we're going to insist for the review to be annual. Or else if you collect any money and the value of the currency is changing per hour, it will not make any sense and it will be illogical, to return that amount for the next 4 or 5 years. So these are dynamics of the negotiation.
Do you understand that now? Now you can say all you want to, but they have just cause. Their argument is valid. And ordinarily, as much as, that amount of money is not realistic in the current Nigeria, but they should be offered something more realistic than 60,000 naira, Baba. Come on. 60,000 naira for a family of 4 in Nigeria. And you actually think that is right. You are evil. Madam?
All of you, shame on all of you. We withdraw our support from you. I will tell you that you are not representing us. Look, it has gotten to that stage when you are chasing a snake will run away. But when you box it to a corner, it will face you. Nigerians, we are ready for you. All of you that you say you are representing us, your total emolument in a year, just 460 members of the assembly. Only 360. Your total emolument is even more than the salary that put together that the old workers in the country that are earning. So let us state it that since you are not representing us, since you have already leave us to our fate, since you have jeopardized the issue of the workers, we are withdrawing our services en masse. And we say that from 12 midnight today in Lagos State and across the whole country, Nigeria remain in total shutdown. All of you, shame on all of you.
You get that now? So it was like what you read already right now. Stop trying to sugarcoat it. All right? Come up with something reasonable. Some said, I like that too, Iruk. So Iruk believed that 1 million is a good start. And indeed it should be. In Nigeria, where the hyperinflation is already has already devalued that money in your pockets. Before you get paid, you're already in debt. And I'm talking about Not just the debtors to say, oh, before I get paid, I've already borrowed my salary. You don't even have a salary to pay for whatever you think you might want to borrow. Do you understand? So they should be offered something. And if you, back in 2019, Omoyele Sowore proposed 100,000 naira living wage for an average worker in Nigeria. Some people laughed at him because to them, it's impossible. It's never going to, they can't do it. Now, that was when the inflation in Nigeria was around 17–18%. Even it's more officially now, okay? Their official figure. Okay, and then the food inflation was somewhere around there, 22%. That was the time you could still buy a bag of rice for 24,000, 25,000. Remember? Honestly, it's not like ages. This was just about 4 or 5 years ago. You could buy a bag of rice for 30,000. And all of us were just here like, oh more. Today, a bag of rice is over 80,000 naira, and it could be more tomorrow. All that these guys have been doing is just all talk, no action. But the real action they are taking are actions that continues to harden the situation for people. Economic policies that are totally outdated. And when they talk, you can tell, for those who have brains, for those who still have their senses intact, you can tell, are these the guys managing Nigeria? Let me give you one. This is Wale Edonsin. This is the Minister of Finance in Nigeria on this issue, talking about subsidy and if they had any plan. Listen to him.
Will find their lives easier.
Let me quickly jump in here, and I'd like to know. There's been a lot of debate as to the decision of President Bola Tinubu on the first day of assumption of office when he said subsidy is gone. And if I may ask you, do you think, with the benefit of hindsight, that maybe this government could have had a more concrete strategies and plans for fuel subsidy removal before the announcement of the single policy that has jolted all what we have in this country, economy-wise, into a shock, and things that we are seeing now, and it's now been so difficult to recover since the last 12 months?
I think the fuel subsidy removal, which was the first major policy announcement of Mr. President, was necessary. It was overdue, and it had placed the country in a fiscally unmanageable situation. Today, although this is not what the average Nigerian sees, the revenue of government, when you look at my role basically as the government treasurer, as opposed to maybe the coordinator of the economy, we have totally revamped and renewed government revenue. The procedures that we use now mean that we are collecting virtually all that should be coming to government from various agencies, revenue earning departments, and parastatals. And that is increasing, and that includes major earnings in foreign exchange, which were not being had before. And so, as a result of what's been done on the revenue, the government is paying its way. Nigeria is no longer living on borrowed money. It's no longer living on drawing ways and means. When we have international debts, obligations to international companies or banks, like for instance, the shareholding in African Development Bank, the shareholding payments to the Islamic Development Bank, hundreds of millions of dollars, we have made them on time. We have kept the reputation of the country intact, and that is ongoing. We don't expect. We have paid down 7.3 trillion naira of outstanding, overdue ways and means obligation. That is overdraft at central bank. And so the government is really put in place a robust mechanism.
Nuisance, Lele.
Olori Buruku is not just a nuisance, it's an Olori Buruku man. Do you understand what that means? An unfortunate soul and shameless too. Okay? He said, yes, they took the decision to remove subsidy because when they removed it, it has puts Nigeria on a very good financial stand, okay? And he said they are no longer borrowing. Nigeria no longer live on the borrowed money. He said Nigeria no longer live on ways and means, the money from central bank. I mean, come on, man. Wale Edo said that on TV. It must be true. Abi?